And to hear some cops tell it, there is upside to their presence that goes far beyond school safety, that they're also there to build trust in police from an early age.
So in other words, pro-police propaganda. Just propaganda, wasting everyone's fucking time. What a shit country. What an absolute shit country. I think this is actually something that I want to touch on. I think that why America feels like it's the most nihilistic society that's ever existed. Literally demonic in the sense that it doesn't care about its future. It doesn't care about its children. It's all about your own personal consumption. And we don't view kids as human beings anymore, but rather the playthings of their parents. It's another possession that you can have as an American, is you get to own and control your kids, and they're expressions of your own identity. They're not treated as like fully autonomous human beings that are going to develop into adults in the future. We don't look at children as future citizens or human beings. We see them as these totems for their parents to express themselves with. And it starts early, from the gender reveal party all the way through, child pageants and this, I want to control everything that's shown to my child. What the fuck? There's no desire to have that child develop as an independent human being. It's fucking sick, man. They're not just a possession, they lack autonomy because kids are incapable of being proper consumers. They don't exist as society until they can hold down a job and be exploited. Yeah. On the radio in the mornings, the retirement advice shows are a good example of this. They always push the idea of getting as close to possible to dying with zero in your bank account and leaving your kids to deal with whatever. That is fucking perverse. That is fucking disgusting. Obviously, as a leftist, I'm not a big in favor of like inheritance or something. Like as a concept, I think inheritance should be taxed highly. But in a society where we don't have guaranteed housing, we don't have free university, obviously it requires families to care for one another and to help invest in the next generation so that they have the best possible life. You'd have to be a psycho to want to leave nothing in our capitalist hellscape to your family. You must love no one but yourself. That's fucking freak shit.
Alex Turner tells us he is all in favor of the idea of adding SROs.
It's for the simple fact that they've got a force multiplier in the school where they could stop some imminent threat to our children.
Oh my fucking God. Force multiplier, imminent threat. These fucking... Legitimately, this is how Call of Duty has damaged our culture. Is people do the pseudo... We have fewer people serving in the military than any other time in American history going since the post-war period. It's funny because after World War II, that was the least a normal dude didn't go around doing, I'm military. When the average guy you saw on the street was a fucking combat veteran or military veteran, they used less military terminology about day-to-day life than these fucking people when it's less than 1% or 1% of people. Give me a fucking break. He's a force multiplier. Jesus fucking Christ. Maybe this guy's a vet. I don't know. But Jesus, the culture is becoming so fucking funny. So many chicken hawks, man.
They're future taxpayers. They're future citizens that are going to invest in our community.
In my socialist future, that guy would be adjudicated mentally ill, and he would be in a intensive residential treatment program with state-of-the-art psychologists and psychiatrists. Children are future taxpayers and investors. That guy, he needs help. We're going to set aside New Zealand as the place where we intensively treat these people. Andrew Yang wrote a piece on the Washington Post about saving the boys and reinstituting nationalized service. I'm not even... chat, don't get me going. Biden wants to spend over $815 billion on the military, chat. This is a 10% increase over Trump. This is over 10. Joe Biden is literally worse than Trump. He's worse than Trump. He's legitimately worse than Trump. If Trump had won re-election, it probably would have been better for the country. At this point, Joe Biden is so disappointing that is probably true. Because at least people would be angry at the shit the government's doing. What Joe Biden is doing is defeating everyone's hope. people would be fucking going gangbusters fighting against the Republicans. There would be a massive Democratic wave coming in the midterm. Just think about what happened when George Bush won re-election in 2004, and then there were massive waves in 2006 and 2008. But with Joe Biden in there, he's just sucking all life and hope out of everything. We've already lasers pew pew pew. I've been talking about that for. Have I not been talking about this for weeks, months? Have I not been talking about the solar tariffs for months? Am I one of the few people who found that story in the back page of Reuters and brought it in front of you months ago? Did I not? Did I not call this months ago? Of course I did.
Woo.
Did I not talk about the DSA slate of endorsed candidates in New York by AOC? Did I not talk about the Sewer Socialists of Milwaukee who won their primary for Milwaukee County? Did I not talk about Paul Prescott, a DSA candidate in running for state senate in Philadelphia? Did I not talk to you guys about John Fetterman for fucking years? Who has been steering you right? Way ahead of the curve. I mean, we're so gigantically ahead of the curve on politics, it's not even fucking funny. I talked about Summer Lee in 2019. I talked about the Pittsburgh left movement. I mean, you could go back into my deep archives if you can find them, and you'll see me talking about the shit that's the most relevant now 3 fucking years ago. God damn, man. We're going to talk about that. I'm just getting very pissed off because Joe Biden is so fucking terrible. I'm not an accelerationist in any sense of the word, but I think Joe Biden's election was catastrophic for the world. Because how can you credibly say to people, we're going to change things? How can you credibly say electoralism is worth your effort? You should care. The Democrats have the House, the Senate, and the White House. They can't do anything. How can you credibly argue to people that they should care? By electing real leftists, not corporate Democrats. Christ. I'm 16. What do I tell my kids when half the country is a county or country's underwater? I don't know, man. Lib apologists keep saying they don't actually have the majority. Filibuster stops them. The filibuster is a rule that the majority adopts. So the majority can get rid of the filibuster at will. It's sort of like this. Imagine you're in a boxing match, and before the boxing match, your trainer comes out and he ties one of your hands behind your back. All the people who bet on you are going to be like, what? This is rigged. They're trying to lose. He's trying to lose the fight. Take off the fucking... untie your hand from behind you. Oh, we can't. We can't untie our hand behind our back. It's like, you tied your own hand behind your back. What are you talking about? That's not in the rules of boxing. You can untie your hand at any time. No. Next fight, when he's the champ, he'll tie his hand behind his back. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. You don't know. You have no control over what he does. That's the analogy that we're facing. We're watching the Democrats get punched in the fucking face through the hole in their defense from the hand tied behind their back, and they're screaming at us, give us a third hand, grow us a third hand. It's as likely that Democrats are going to get 60 plus votes, progressive votes in the Senate, as you would of spontaneously growing a third hand. You sound like an acceleration. Biden didn't appoint 3 ultra-conservatives to the Supreme Court. Trump did, and we're seeing the consequences now. Hazardous. In 2016, when there was a vacant Supreme Court case, your argument made sense. But now, we can't do gradualism anymore. Okay? I'll give you an example from aviation. You can't use runway that's behind you. Whether you're taking off or landing, runway that's behind the fucking plane, you don't get to use. You only have what's in front of you. Which means the closer you get to the end of the runway, the more extreme shit you have to do to not die. So whatever we could take control of this. They have 3 lifetime Supreme Court judges. And you're only making the argument we need to be more extreme now because we missed those opportunities in the past. It's over. We can't go back to 2016 and relitigate and redo things or get Hillary to campaign in Wisconsin or pick a better VP candidate or nominate Bernie. All those things are gone. You can waste your time. That doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't. It's gone. It's in the past. Now, we were right the whole way when we said don't nominate her. She's terrible. People don't like her. We were right the whole way when we say, Obama, you need to not try to pretend, work across the aisle. You need to pass a bunch of shit. When you have 58, 59, 60 senators, which he had for 5 months, minimum 58, all that shit, that's in the past. You're wasting your fucking time. Now we have the future. The wall is coming up. The end of the runway. That means we've got to pull the chute. That means we've got to slam on the brakes. We've got to put the thrust reverser on max. You have to do everything you can to stop the plane. And yeah, that if it comes down to it, you got to crash the plane to save lives. How do we, we're hitting the end of the runway. Where do we steer the plane to save as many lives as we can? That's the point. You don't get to go and look back. It's fucking pointless now. If I could, I would happily not have had Trump win in 2016. But guess what? That was 6 fucking years ago. Stop talking about it. Mike, when you're talking like this, you got to slow it down for a second, resolve something so we can clip it. You're the most brilliant organizer, but you could be better if you did 60-second TikTok compatible. Yeah, I need to focus on that, on creating more like coherent things and not getting distracted by chat. But what makes Twitch entertaining is the fact that you're making content for Twitch, not thinking of making content for TikTok. I'm talking to you guys because Twitch is better. I enjoy Twitch better. Did you see this little shit about 44% of Republicans thinking mass shootings are necessary? Oh, I didn't see that if you want to link it. All I heard is you like Top Gun Maverick. The funniest thing about Top Gun Maverick was the idea that they would use the Navy for a mission like that. The F-18 is an inferior plane. The odds that they would use one for something like that was comical. You tell your kids there's never for a second in all of history been a moment where society stops, where community stops, where people stop caring. Yeah, we'll be underwater and we'll be building a better world all the way. Greed is good, won the game 33 years ago and their empire is crumbling in front of us. We've been fighting for nearly 200 years, but this nihilism, this feeling of hopelessness at the end of history is all very recent project. Yes, true. Did you like the movie?
Never mind 2016.
I liked aspects of it. I think I need to watch it with my dad is basically what needs to happen. I'm going to take my dad to it probably next week. That ought to be funny. Because my dad is actually a graduate of stuff that's like harder than Top Gun. But we're not going to do inter-service rivalry shit because that's very imperialist. The fascist nihilists are the real accelerationists. They do it silently behind the curtains. I mean, sure. 44% of Republicans say mass shootings are something we have to accept. We should be using that as propaganda against Republicans. Many fathers and sons have been going to see that movie together. Well, the difference is my father is actually a imperialist fighter pilot. I'm just fucking. This stream is so depressing. What? We can afford anything. Austerity now. $800 billion for military during peacetime. America is insane. I legitimately think that America is a fundamentally evil country in a way that I don't really think. I'm gonna be distracted for a second. Does anyone think that China would have been better off if the Chinese Communist Party had fallen in 1989 versus where they are today? Does anybody think China would be better off if it went through the same shit that Russia went through in the 90s? Question for everybody. Hypothetically. Would it have been better for the world if China had collapsed, if this Chinese Communist Party had collapsed in 1990, similarly to the way that Russia collapsed? Was the Soviet Union better after it collapsed? Fuck no. They still haven't recovered. Quentin Tarantino explained how gay Top Gun is. Top Gun's extremely gay. Everyone knows that. Can you imagine how fascist China would have been? Can you imagine how bad the world would be if China had fallen to neoliberalism the way Russia did? I think we can all join together and say, thank God that didn't happen. We're going to get into this more later, but thank God it didn't happen. Always quote Lord Keynes. Anything we can do, we can afford. So true. So fucking true. So fucking true. I mean, gosh, isn't it incredible that liberal thought is behind where it was in the 30s?
Presidential candidates for 2024.
I have no idea, IT Medic. That's something I need to. That's a kind of a question I need to like make some sort of clickbait video about. That's a good clickbait video idea. Thank you. What if Mao just lost the Civil War? I don't want to imagine the hell world that would have unleashed. I have to say, and this may be controversial in an American audience, but I think China has walked a path after its defeat of Imperial Japan that is far superior to like almost any other path that could have happened. Like the alternatives would have been a horrific hell state. It would be like Somalia level development if it went down a different path. China is in direct competition with the U.S. in terms of the global economy. The dollar, being the global reserve currency, could quickly be replaced by the yuan. It sounds like we need to come up with what Keynes wanted to do. Keynes wanted to have a global reserve currency that was just used by central banks. That sounds like a good idea. Just having an international currency that's used by everybody and no country has control over it. As an alternative. Anyway, let's keep going. Kind of a shit idea. You know what's worse? Having the dollar control everything. That's an even worse idea.
In disadvantaged schools, they're more likely to engage primarily.
Oh, what do you mean white schools versus black schools, you mean?
Of the triad model. When they asked their members which prong they identify with the most, over 2/3 selected law enforcement. But that's not...
What do you mean white? I thought white was a socially constructed falsehood. It is. How are you able to distinguish a white school? Oh, are you one of those people who thinks... I mean, I don't know if you're being sarcastic, but just to grab this user... He said, what do you mean white? I thought white was socially constructed. How do you distinguish a white school? Okay. Now, using this as a moment of discussion, just because something is socially constructed doesn't mean it's not real in the sense of affects things. For example, money is socially constructed. It only has value within the context of our social relation and the way that we follow rules and guidelines, and we all kind of have this mutual delusion that we should care about money. So money has value because other people consider it to have value. And we've seen in many circumstances around the world where a currency, when that illusion breaks, rapidly becomes worthless. Happens all the time. Similarly, white is a construct of our society. Whiteness itself is no older than 500 to 600 years. Prior to that, there was no concept of white. So when there were light-skinned people, but whiteness as a concept of social organization wasn't developed and didn't exist. People were far more interested in other identities, political identities, social identities, religious identities than a concept such as whiteness, which did not exist. So how can we recognize what a white school is? Well, I happen to be someone who grew up in a society where whiteness and race was a concept that has been very important for our social relations. So I can still recognize when whiteness exists, or white schools exist, or black schools exist, because we all have that ability being raised in the society. But I can still look at it as a rational human being and go, whiteness is a construct, and it's serving a certain role in society. So let's question that role. If we're going to continue to elevate this concept of whiteness and perpetuate it, why? And this is the difference between a leftist and a conservative or a right-winger. A right-winger says that we should continue doing what we've been doing because, according to the most sophisticated conservative argument, there is ancient hidden wisdom in our traditions, even if we can't rationally discover it. So we should keep doing it because it's too risky to stop. That's a conservative. I can't explain why I do something, but there must be a reason. Otherwise, why do we do it? That's the most sophisticated conservative argument. How does that feel? How is that striking all of you right now? Does that feel smart to you? Does that feel like a good idea? We should keep burning whale oil instead of developing electric lights because that's how we always did it.
I see that teachers have neglected to figure out a way to handle a lot of problems on their own that they used to. Things that were up to the teacher before are now just a phone call away.
How many of your peers are just picking up the phone and calling the school resource officer?
I'd say the majority of teachers are doing that. Definitely 75% out of all of us, if I just want to make a rough guess, are doing that. Because they go in with a set lesson plan, and when the kid doesn't want to do it, what do? I get him out of the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big issue. This is how racism plays out in our society, right? So when you have an action being treated in a divergent way, right? So when white kids act up in school, it's an administrative problem. It's a disciplinary problem. When black students act up in school, that's a criminal problem. That's a law enforcement violation. And so you can criminalize the behaviors, which in and of themselves are stuff that happens at school. I'm not saying it's good when a student acts up in school. No, of course. You want to maintain a disciplined learning environment, teach people how to interact with one another, what the range of acceptable behavior is, socialization. That's part of what school is for. But the divergent ways in which we treat black kids and white kids over the same kind of infractions is how institutional racism perpetuates itself. And if you isolate the incident and say, look at the student, they did really bad thing X and they got criminally charged, you might even, stripped of all context, go, oh, okay, well, that was so bad, I guess that makes sense. While at the same time, the same behavior over here is being treated with an administrative punishment. And that administrative punishment may lead to better outcomes in the long run for that student than criminalizing them, putting them into the system. Lotto Rio says, none of this shit happens where I live in the Netherlands, by the way. Cops in schools arresting children. This is USA weird shit. You guys are the weird ones. No shit. I know. Think of our disgusting system as a Jenga tower. You can't just pull out one cube and think that our disgusting system is going to collapse. If you want to end criminality, you want to end antisocial behavior, you've got to provide a whole host of services. You have to recreate the social contract. And that means radical change. And that's going to mean stuff that I don't think America, because of our electoral system, can ever do. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll have another miracle and another FDR will happen. I don't see it happening, quite frankly. But our system is too slow, and it's going to be the reason why it fails, because it can't respond to problems. There are too many veto points. There's too many concentrated special interests and capital. There's just no way of breaking through all that logjam to get anything done. But yes, obviously kids deserve to have a safe learning environment.
So you have no idea that these kids are getting criminal records?
I wouldn't know that one way or the other.
But don't you head discipline for the district?
And I take care of discipline for the district. If consequences go beyond that into the legal realm, that's not our purview, that's not our business.
Holy shit, that is selective. Not your business? Oh no, my good bitch. That is very much your business. And I do understand the distinction.
Look at how that guy lied so brazenly. He got caught, and then he used a lawyer's dodge. Criminal. Prison. I mean, John, we can just see what you are now. We know. Oh, no. Who bought him those glasses? Oh, no. And he's got a unibrow. He didn't trim the unibrow. I like the glasses. Could we see a pic of you in high school? I have one somewhere. It was in my yearbook, you know, but it has my sister in. I won a senior poll, and I had other there's a lot of pictures of me in the yearbook. We don't really do much national training in the way for cop. Like, many of you probably look at this situation and go, you know, you immediately, the lib gears start turning, we should have this regulation. Da, da, da. We don't do shit for cops, period. We don't even know when cops shoot their guns. We don't know how many bullets were fired by law enforcement last year. We don't know. We don't know how many people were killed by cops last year. We don't know. There is no reporting requirement. When a cop takes out his gun and shoots someone to death, we don't know. You can go by like media reports, but if it doesn't get picked up by the local media, we largely don't know. Oh, I mean, like, gosh, think about the police department the largest police department in your state. They almost certainly have a consent decree or had a consent decree for blatant, open racism and discrimination. Meaning the FBI came in, investigated your police department, and found it to be so fucking criminal that they had to sign a document, a pledge, a legally binding pledge supervised by a judge not to be so goddamn racist. Oh, here you go, by the way, chat. Hey, I just looked up one. I was like, Mike, you should show them. Philadelphia settlement agreement. Philadelphia Police Department. Thursday, August 2nd, 2018. Settlement/consent decree between the United States of America and the city of Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Police Department. They abused deaf people. It looks like they abused someone who was deaf. It looks like they were abusing disabled people, so they had to sign the consent decree because they were abusing disabled people. Literally, try to find an example with your largest police department where they're not blatantly abusing some protected group's civil rights. Can you show me an example of national standards that are actually upheld in the U.S.? I would say the U.S., the area where the U.S. does the best in the world is probably aviation. That's about it. The U.S. is probably the best aviation culture. Other than that, why major airlines are heavily regulated, they're protected from foreign competition through protectionism, there is unions, the air traffic control system is nationalized. and run by the government. There's an extreme regulatory, a pretty powerful regulatory body, and even there they still fuck up from time to time. But by far and away, I'd say the U.S. is probably the best in aviation, better than any other country. And again, it's all because it's one of the most highly regulated, unionized areas. Because rich people depend on the airlines for their jobs. I mean, I'm just saying that if you wanted to know an area where the U.S. is probably the best, that's probably it. The airports are all terrible because, again, they are old infrastructure. So that's really an infrastructure problem because the U.S. doesn't invest in infrastructure. Maybe that'll get refreshed with the bipartisan deal. I didn't even look how much were they spending on airports? Are they actually going to improve airports with the bipartisan infrastructure deal? I can't even remember what they actually were going to spend money on. Or is it all car shit? The nav aids are even worse. So many dead VORs and ILS. I mean, VOR is really old technology. Like, do we even really need that anymore? I mean, with GPS is so ubiquitous. I would just like to see...
Jammies.
I want to see, like general aviation brought back with electric planes. That sounds fucking fun to me. Anyway, this is very niche aviation shit. Crash and Burn, thank you for the prime. Like, ban single engine ice engine planes. Seriously. Or like phase them out. That's what we need to do. Or, especially like your Cessnas at least, like your 152s. Just need to get rid of that shit. I would just continue to ignore the left on airplanes. LMFAO battery plane. How heavy do you think that shit is? God, imagine if there was battery plane. Like, imagine battery planes. I mean, those are obviously pie in the sky. Single engine plane, like, obviously doesn't exist, right? Obviously, that's not happening. I mean, just like, obviously this is you can't do this. This is impossible. This is clearly can't be done.
It could be the future of flight in WA, a revolutionary plane that runs on electricity with the power to slash operating costs and fares. Chris Meldrum went along when it was unveiled in Perth today.
Probably the quietest takeoff you've ever heard. An electric plane, the first of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere. It's light, just 380 kilograms, and the cost is close to a petrol-engined plane. But WA-based owners, Electro Aeros, say that's where the similarity ends.
You're not making any environmental impact, no pollution, and no burning of fossil fuels.
Mechanically, it doesn't get much simpler.
It has one moving part, which is the propeller shaft. Apart from that, it's almost completely maintenance-free.
It also costs a tenth of the price to run, $3 an hour. Just plug it in, 45.
That's it? $3 an hour? I mean, light engine airplane like that usually run like $100 an hour. $3 an hour? Holy fucking hell. Everyone can get their private pilot license. That's incredible. Now, this right here, chat, is what I was talking about. I was talking about light general aviation. We should be focusing on developing technologies like this, as opposed to like a Cessna 152, which is like a single engine plane that burns leaded gasoline. By the way, is that cheap enough to actually disrupt? Probably not, although it's getting there. Like, it's getting there. We need probably, twice or three times the energy density in battery. We need, what is it for? It's supposed to replace light training aircraft. When people are first learning how to become a pilot, they fly light training aircraft like that, single engine planes. It literally can't fly for more than an hour. What's your point? My point is that this is technology that's rapidly developing. It's sort of like cars with range. Liberal brain is for me to... Mike, you have some competition with Hasan viewers. I don't think somebody who just puts Hasan in their name is going to compete with me. Like, if you just want to watch someone because it has Hasan in their name, then congratulations. You have plenty of opportunities to do that. If you want people who are going to teach you things or talk, then I don't have much competition.
But hey, hold on.
Oh, it's Austin playing. He's playing. Okay, this is actual competition. All right, before we go on, Chad, I once got into a knock-down, drag-out argument with Debate Bro Tactics and everything about plantains and bananas. I got a burrito and I got plantains in it, and I was like, this is a hack. Plantains in your burrito. It's fucking based. And they were like, oh, you mean bananas? And I was like, well, no, I mean a plantain. I don't think a banana would be very good in a burrito. And they're like, they're the same thing. And I was like, no, they're different. They're similar. They're related. But when you say plantain, you're saying a specific subtype of banana. And when you say banana, typically you're talking about that, Cavendish varietal of banana, the sweet banana that we eat with breakfast, or we put in bread. You're not talking about plantain. The plantain is like, it's a different thing. And they were like, no, it's the same fucking thing. And they got so freaked out. They started to freak out about it. And I just stood my ground and I just started laughing at them and was like, no, they're not the same. That dude eats unseasoned chicken for sure. Oh, absolutely. It's like saying a pit bull is the same as a chihuahua. I think that's the best analogy, honestly. Yes, they're both dogs in the greatest possible sense, but all of us understand that there's a different phenotype between what we would call a chihuahua and what you would call a pit bull. It was incredible. And yes, the person was white, just so you understand. To be fair, my wife, who's Dominican, calls plantinos bananas, but she means plantains. Oh, fuck. We already talked about bananas, like how the banana that we eat today is not the same as the original banana. Did you guys know that? We've talked about this. I think we talked about this last summer, but the banana we have now is not the same banana. The banana we have now sucks compared to the original banana. Doesn't that suck? The Gros Michel, that's right. Doesn't that suck? I want to try the original banana. The current banana is kind of like bleh. It's kind of mediocre. I've never tried the original banana. Did you know that's happening again? Like right now we're losing our current banana. I've heard that for a few years, but I don't know. Bananas still seem to be around. Have you tried cotton candy grapes? I'm going to be honest, chat. I bought cotton candy grapes and then put them in my fridge and forgot I had them and never ate them. Doesn't that feel bad when you do stuff like that? That's the worst part of buying fresh fruit. Sometimes you buy fresh fruit, you put it in your fridge and you're like, I'm going to eat this. And then you forget about it for a couple days and then you're like, fuck. Come back and it's like bad. You're like, damn it. So I bought it with the intention of trying it, but I didn't.
1 year poggers.
You eat unseasoned chicken is now my favorite insult. You guys, you want to know something? I hate chicken. This is my most controversial food take. Chicken sucks. And I've had it all, Chad. I've had Jamaican jerk. I've had, listen, I'm not going to say that I never eat chicken or chicken is never good. I'm just saying that it's the most overrated food by far, and it's not even close. Fried chicken is good because it's fried. General Tso's chicken is good because it's fried and put in sauce. I mean, let's be honest. I like, if you were like, Mike, let's get a bucket of fried chicken, fine. That's fine. But that's because it's breaded and fried. But if you just throw chunks of chicken into a stir fry, very, very much mid. Very, very much mid. Chicken is a cheap source of good protein. I mean, that's the main advantage. It's cheap. I really hope you don't say turkey is better than chicken. No, American turkey is disgusting. What's my favorite kind of protein? Probably would have to go with a nice cut of beef. I agree that chunks are mid, but I'm thinking a thigh. I mean, listen, there's ways that chicken can be good, but people's chicken level of liking chicken is because they like the breading or the fried nature of it, or it's covered in sauce. But just chicken flesh is the most mid. It's like, yeah, have you tried my chicken with 8,000 spices? You take a steak, you put salt and pepper on it, that's good eats. You take a chicken breast and put salt and pepper on it, that's fucking not good. Beef is the most objectively disgusting thing. You like chewing on gristle. Okay, well, I'm sorry that you have been cursed to have bad cuts. I don't know what to say. Mike's never had a proper roasted chicken.
You haven't had sous vide chicken breast. It's great with just S&P.
Okay, before I get more, let's finish this. Let's finish this banana thing. I gave you my most controversial food take, which is miss me with chicken 99% of the time. If there's chicken and another choice, I'm probably going with the other choice. That's just me. All right? Does that mean I'll never eat it? No. Is it good? Is this a direct attack on Hasan as eating habits? I would rather literally leave the earth than eat what Hasan eats. I would rather just stop eating altogether than eat the diet that Hasan eats. This is my own personal take. That sounds absolutely terrible.
Chicken stands want like this.
It's I don't care about having millions of dollars. If you're eating boneless, skinless chicken breasts for most of your meals, why even live? Hasan just eats Chipotle now? Does he eat chicken Chipotle bowls? Ugh. He's personally admitted that he has an eating disorder and has to eat. I don't want to say that he has an eating disorder because I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. I just think that food is one of the most important sensory experiences that you have. And eating good food is like an amazing way of like enhancing your life for very little in the way of increased expense. So you should really look into doing that. Being a foodie is like a major way of enhancing your like everyday life with not a lot much more expense. And you can eat healthy. You know, you don't have to just throw butter on everything. You don't have to, be unhealthy. My unhealthy habits, the reason why I've gained weight is because of dumbass shit like eating ice cream or like, stuff like that. Like that's what makes you gain weight. Empty calories in drinks, drinking alcohol. It's not the food. Anything you ingest, food, drinks, drugs, you should have the highest quality. Honestly, I kind of agree with that. Binges on ice cream but hates chicken. Actually, it's not ice cream. I lied. It's like high quality gelato. I wouldn't eat low quality ice cream. That's the only exception to that. The only exception I have to that is soft serve. Okay, listen. Soft serve is a totally different sensory experience, and it's fucking good. And I will die on this hill. Soft serve is great. But if you want to gain weight, eat that shit. Are you watching the stream unsubbed? You're making income inequality worse. You are doing anti-praxis. We are the only Twitch stream that will not accept scam advertisers, and I will never fuck you over by selling you crap.